And I think conservatives oftentimes are very worried that decriminalization or legalization will lead to a Mad Max hellscape. That's probably their primary fear. And I think you have to show them that what we're doing as far as like incarceration actually isn't the most effective way to deal with the problem. So if there's an alternative model to present them with, something that a lot of people have talked to me about is the Portuguese model, basically decriminalizing, alternative treatment programs, like all that kind of stuff. And I think that would, if we can argue from a utilitarian standpoint and dollar spent standpoint that this, and morally, that this is the better way to go, we have to present that vision as an alternative in order to get that last buy-in from the last cultural holdouts.
There we go. What your idea on autonomy got Shelley all excited. She says, autonomy. I admit that I was not aware of young people acknowledging this concept. Just being honest, I learned it from the non-autonomous autonomous zones.
Well, Shelley, if it makes you feel better, I get called a boomer and I'm in my early 30s. So
there we go. Yes. I get called a boomer always. That's like, okay, boomer is the response to half the stuff I hear. So
you know, and in order to lean into it rhetorically, you just got to lean into it. You just got to be like, yes, I'm a boomer, but that means that I've seen and done some stuff. You need to listen up, whippersnapper.
There we go. I like it. I like it. So you're for decriminalization.
Okay, so where it gets tricky for me is I did see what methamphetamine and cocaine and some of the harder drugs, heroin, do to people. So if like I would need to see the model very specifically in order to support it. So in general, weed should be recreational. Period. I think it has probably the same or less bad effects than alcohol. There's no, like, and when people put their passion into drug decriminalization or legalization, oftentimes they're talking about marijuana. When it comes to the harder stuff, methamphetamine, cocaine, and heroin, those are the things that I need to see. That's part of the reason why I need to see the model. I need to know what works. How do we not destroy American families? How do we make sure that, basically the treatment programs that we're offering are either helping addicts or preventing additional harm? And that's really where I need to see like the utilitarian breakout. I don't have
what if there was a plan that just said, Connor, I don't got a plan. All I know is this is not working. Let's just stop arresting everybody for meth or cocaine or anything. Would you say, no, dude, let's keep arresting until we have a plan? Yeah. Or do you go, fine, let's do it and we'll figure it out when the time comes?
Yeah, sorry, I'm a statist. I'm sorry.
I had a feeling you were. There's too much cop in you, man. I still love you. There's too much cop in you. It's fine.
Yeah. For me, I understand that there's like an underlying principle that's being violated as far as personal autonomy. But I'm a communitarian, basically, that I don't believe, like, I believe in the individual. But I also believe that the collective exists. I'm way more fearful about collective power than I am individual power. But at the same time, I'm a communitarian in the fact that I think that dividing ourselves up into collectivists and individualists is actually a false dichotomy. I think that we should worry about the interplay between the individual and the collective on the individual, and then try to dial that in from a formulaic standpoint. So I'm sympathetic to libertarianism because I do value a lot of individual rights, but I don't have like this like firm principle that I apply in every circumstance.
I got it. Carrie says, I'm not super informed about Portugal, but their addiction problem has dropped dramatically, like something crazy amount, like 75%. It's true, right? The data that is out is if you have the choice to just go end it and we'll see what happens, or keep arresting, generally speaking, ending all prohibition on it tends to work in Portugal's model. Do I have proof it'll work in America? I don't. I believe it will? I do.
But I'm fine with the Portuguese model, by the way, because, for instance, I think I read up on it a little bit. I'm pretty sure the first like 3 or 4 times that you're caught with possession, you're referred to a treatment program. I think there might even be like civil fines for people who can afford the fines. But then after that, I think once you don't go to treatment for a certain amount of time, or after you continue to be caught, or if you're trafficking, then I think there's still criminal penalties that can be applied. And so that's what I'm saying. When I hear let's, decriminalize, legalize across the board, I basically see as like, narco cartels being like, oh, okay, we can sell cocaine on the strip. So we'll just, set up our version of CFS on every corner and we'll sell coke and heroin out of it. I'm not interested in that.
Well, the issue is, why would they sell heroin, right? The reason why there's fentanyl and heroin and meth and crack is because cocaine's too expensive. It's because Adderall is
so we
because
should
you
make
need a
cocaine cheaper. That way, everybody's into cocaine more than the other stuff.
well the yes. To be forward, yes. If I have a choice of people snorting Adderall, which is the cool thing now for the people on Wall Street, is they snort Adderall now instead of snorting cocaine. But years ago, they used to snort cocaine all the time. Cocaine was the thing on the street, and I mean Wall Street, not the street. I mean like the guys, the traders and stuff. They used to do cocaine all the time. Now many of them do Adderall instead because it's just cheaper and it's safer. So they do safer drugs. Many of them have been doing drugs for years, and many of them are not addicted. Because cocaine and the way they used it is just they were using it to stay awake forever. I mean, that was what they were using. I'm not a drug. I'm not someone who's pro drug. I'm just pro freedom in general. And if I had a choice between people taking cocaine or taking some other drug, yeah, I would do it. And Mr. Max says just because it's legal doesn't mean people will do it. And I think it's a valid point. I think he does have a valid point. You think people,
well, yeah.
Please
So my counterpoint, I said the name.
Please, that is the name. You are branding yourself well. Hold on, let me put your counterpoints is almost counterpoints. It's right there.
Yeah. Counterpoints was already taken on Twitter. So all right. So my thing is, just because it's legal, people aren't going to do it. You're right. Alcohol is legal. I don't drink that much anymore. Tobacco is legal. I used to smoke. I don't smoke anymore. But at the same time, you can't tell me that there aren't individual impacts. I smoked for a decade. There is a chance. I think it's by the time I'm 45, my chances of lung cancer will drop down to that of a normal person. I think because of the amount of alcohol that I did younger and also some illicit drugs that I did younger, there are probably long-term health consequences and taxes on my body that I will pay for as a result of my earlier behavior. People who are 16 to 25, I would say, are the primary people who are engaging in illicit narcotics. Not all of them have their prefrontal lobes are not completely formed. A lot of them are stupid. A lot of them are emotional. A lot of them are jerks, to put it lightly. And True. I think that to pretend that legality doesn't have anything to do with consequence or people's behavior, I think is just patently false. I think that there were plenty of things that I considered doing that I knew were illegal, that I knew would impose large consequences on my life, and I chose not to do them. Also, I was propagandized as a teenager to say, hey, don't do these drugs. You will literally destroy your life. Now, whether or not that propaganda was accurate or not is different, but it was effective because basically I went to marijuana, alcohol, and acid a couple of times, and I was like, all right, I'm not touching anything else. I have an addictive personality. I'm not even going to open this Pandora's box. And as a result, I'm still not the healthiest guy in the world, but I'm probably healthier as a result. So propaganda, long story short, propaganda, legality, and consequences do impact the way people behave.
Sure. I guess you mentioned the cartels. I'll touch two pieces of this. The first one was, I think everything you said is correct. Absolutely. I would still fall back to two things. One of them is cartels, one's my body. It's still your life. And even though you may do damage to your body, it's still okay. The government didn't stop you from joining the Marine Corps and maybe destroying your body physically and or mentally. It didn't stop me from joining the Marine Corps and perhaps destroying my body physically or mentally, both. And when it was a thing, when I was young, I remember still, I'm older to remember when you could drink at 18. I still remember that. Right. That's how new the 21-year drinking age has become. I still remember it at 18. What they did it because what they wanted to do, the goal of it, at least ostensibly, was we'll raise the drinking age to 21, and then that'll keep a whole bunch of beer out of high school. And it worked. It totally worked. That your point is a valid one. So what changed? Kids started smoking weed instead because it was easier to get weed than it was to get beer. So kids didn't stop getting high. They just changed what they used. And my argument to that would be, if people want to get high for whatever reason, they're going to find a way to get high, whether that's sniffing glue or whether that's smoking weed or drinking alcohol. I mean, if they're going to do meth, I'd rather them do coke. I don't want them doing either. I'd like them getting high by, running with their friends in a marathon. That would be wonderful. That would be amazing.
Who wants to run 25 miles though? I'm good.
I'm just saying,
yeah,
I would
all right,
prefer that, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Okay, so your point is understood, and you're right. I did pay a physical consequence for joining the military. I did pay a physical consequence for joining law enforcement, but there's a social utility to law enforcement and the military as part of the security infrastructure. I think that serves a higher purpose. That's why that consequence, those negative externalities that were imposed, were, basically consequences that I think society ultimately deems necessary in order to perpetuate itself. Whereas specifically with heroin, there's a long and nefarious history with heroin, and part of that history is basically China during the 19th century. The UK intentionally selling heroin and actually bending China's arm behind its back in order to sell heroin to the populace, and as a result, broken families, people addicted in dens, loss of economic productivity, and a whole bunch of like really horrific social consequences. So for me, the simple answer is there's a reason why people do drugs. Drugs are awesome. That's why people do drugs. They smoke cocaine. Oh, this is the best feeling of my entire life. I want to do this again and forever. Why do people do heroin? Because it feels awesome. Why do people do methamphetamine? Because they can work for 3 days straight. Like it's great. It's awesome. But at the same time, what ends up happening is there's really profound negative health consequences as a result of these actions. So, for instance, in China, where methamphetamine is available, but also incredibly discouraged to the point, I think, like if you're a trafficker, you can get put to death. There are some construction workers, who basically do meth. Well, nobody cares about whether or not those people fall and die during an exhausted accident. Nobody cares about whether or not those people have long-term health consequences. And those people don't care,
I think
because they need to make money. What's that?
Their families care. Their families,
if they have families, because what if they're just feeding a habit? So anyways, so I basically, we would probably just wrap around my body, my choice. But like, for me, if you were going to sell me on decriminalization or legalization, you would have to come at me with a utilitarian framework that fits within the collective or communitarian model that we will actually have a better society.
Let me go to the second piece, which is the cartels. And you said, I would hate to have the cartels on the corner selling cocaine. I would love to have them on the corner selling cocaine, because then there's no more violence required. We have corner liquor stores. We have weed dispensaries. The bad part about the cartel selling right now is it's filled with violence, because they got to fight cops. They got to fight other gang members. They don't have courts. They don't have a way of enforcing their policies. So they enforce everything with street justice. But if it was legal, they could have called a cop when someone steals their cocaine, or they could go to court if someone doesn't pay their bill. They could do those things. So if I have a choice of having them shooting 13-year-olds, and in my city, in New York City, that's what actually happens. Instead of 13-year-olds getting shot in the streets, they could go to court instead. I'm kind of okay with that. And the proof of that working is the end of prohibition. Literally less cops died, literally less violence. Literally a bunch of people who were in the black market came out of it and went into a legal market. Not all, obviously, but a bunch of people did.
So again, I would just concede the utilitarian model. But if we want to get this down to like a moral or brass tacks, or whether or not the cartel should have their own version of CVS that sells cocaine to 18-year-olds or something, I would, again, I'm a statist. So what I would say is screw that. What we'll do is the federal government has an incredible amount of buying power. We go down into Central and South America. We go into Afghanistan, where 90% of the world's opium is produced. And we say, you will, on pain of death, sell us all of your cocaine and sell us all of your heroin. We will produce the world's pharmaceutical needs of cocaine, what do they use? They use like Novocaine for the topical pain relief, and they use heroin for, basically medical pain relief. We will produce the world's supply of drugs, like synthetic drugs, for legitimate purposes. And then basically, if you fall outside this network, we're going to come after you, we're going to arrest you, and we're going to kill you. And then basically, the cartels now have an incentive to play ball, because they'll be filthy rich. What's that?
I thought you were a righty. You've literally just had government take over the means of production, and you told me you were a righty. Maybe you're more left than you think, my friend.
No,
You
because
might
I
be
don't
more
want to
left.
spend I don't want to spend the whole time on drugs. So I could actually shift this really easily for you.
I'm teasing you. Go ahead. Yeah.
No,
Go
no,
ahead.
I was going to say, so orientation to power, because this actually gets definitionally pretty interesting because a lot of people fight about who's left and who's right these days.
Sure. All the time.
You know, you're not right, you're left, this, that, the other.
Hold on 1 second. Hold that thought.
Sure.
Hold that thought, because you gave me a perfect time to do a quick commercial. If you want to know how left or right you are, take the world's smallest political quiz. Guys, if you're watching, you're thinking to yourself, wait a minute, I don't know whether I'm left or right. Take the world's smallest political quiz. My sponsors, the Advocates for Self-Government. Click that link there. Take the world's smallest political quiz. It's 1 minute. If you've taken it already, do me a favor, share it. Take that link and share it with others so that people can take that quiz and see. You never know. You might be more of a left than you thought. You might be more of a libertarian. Take the quick quiz and you will see it happen. Please support. Click that right there and do that. And if you love me and you think I'm giving you good stuff, then support me directly. Patreon.com/Sharpway. Throw me $10 if you can. If you like what you see, I know you do. And if you like what I'm saying, and I know you do, or you wouldn't be listening, so I know you do, and you want me to keep doing it, and I know you do, then support the show. Patreon.com/Sharpway. $10 is all it takes. If you're making killer money, like you're part of these cartels we're talking about, if you're one of these cartel guys, throw me $100 a month. You got it.
You're a bunch of libertarians. You voted to have your taxes cut. Come on, you got some money floating around. The government's not taking it from you anymore.
Love it. There we go. So go ahead and tell me, you were saying your connection or your link to power was what you were talking about.
Yeah, orientation to power. So basically, if we look at the origins of the right-wing, left-wing definition, then what that typically means, at least in the historical context, was before the French Revolution, there were two sides of the parliament, the right side and the left side of the house. The left side were the secularists and the revolutionaries who no longer wanted a monarchy. And the right wing were the monarchists and the institutionalists who wanted to perpetuate the monarchy.
Sure.
So within that dynamic, America is even more interesting because if you were to apply that definition, it's like, are you more for the people? Are you more for like people power? Or are you more for institution? The reason why America is so interesting is because through a constitutional framework, we've essentially set up what I would call a libertarian framework for the populace. We have limits on power. We have, the Constitution to help guide the way that the government is supposed to interact with the people. So if you're actually incredibly pro-institution in America, you're almost incredibly pro-libertarian and pro-people, but you're using the government in order to enforce that rule set, that liberal and libertarian rule set on everybody through the Constitution. So that's where, for me, so for me, libertarians being considered right-wing is actually libertarians just being pro-American Constitution because they're pro-individual autonomy and a lot of the ideas that helped found our country. That's why they're right-wing. But then if you were to look at like orientation to power, I am a statist. I am pro-American Constitution. I am pro, centralized power. But at the same time, I always think that part of the reason why I'm a centrist is because that always has to be in balance. It always has to be in balance with the people. So if you were to take like power and authority, like dictatorship, monarchy, fascism, or anything like that, and if you were supposed to take like direct democracy as an exact opposite, I am probably dead in the center because I think both of those modes of thinking are prone to corruption and malevolence and degradation and violence.
Okay. Let me grab a couple of comments. You're getting my chat's going crazy, so it's good. I'm happy. Ryan says, so I pretty much agree with Connor, but how does he vote? Do you want to bring up voting? No, if you don't want to say, you don't have to.
No, I did vote in the previous election. So in 2016, I didn't vote for I basically voted for all of the local stuff and then nothing at the top of the ticket because Hillary Clinton was not possible for me to vote for. And Donald Trump made some comments that made it impossible for me to vote for him as well. In 2020,
Gary Johnson was on the ballot in 2016.
And you're right.
He was.
You're right. But I just okay. You know what? Why I didn't vote for Gary Johnson is because I want libertarians. I don't know how your gubernatorial race went, but I just want libertarians to take it serious. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
You're running for the office in the land. You're trying to present yourselves as a correct third party. You have the moral arguments, so you got to take it as seriously as everybody else.
Did you not see me on Joe Rogan?
No, I didn't. But now I have to go watch it.
Joe Rogan, Dave Rubin, and Glenn Beck. Please check all three of those, and you tell me if I take it seriously or not. Go ahead.
So what you're telling me right now is you would kick Gary Johnson's butt. That's what I heard.
I love Gary Johnson. I think he's amazing. He's the reason why I'm
what
in the
about
party.
in a debate? What about in a debate though?
I wouldn't debate him. I would never debate him. I would just acquiesce.
See, that's my thing is I'll debate anybody any other time. See, I'm taking the true centrist credentials right now. I'll fight anybody. So.
I love it. So that's good. I like it. So let me see if I can get in a couple more. There's a bunch of people doing this. So Lepke's on he's on the drugs. He's like, people should be able to get cocoa leaves and chew on cocoa leaves that they do in the Andes.
Sure. I have a friend who went down to Peru and he basically said that he chewed on cocoa leaves. He doesn't see what the big deal is. I think it's processed cocaine that's probably the problem.
Yeah, I would assume that to be true. Yes. So let's see if I can keep going down here.
Sure.
David says Semper Fi, brothers. There we go. Semper Fi's. Yes. David says legalize it, regulate it like onions. That was actually one of my slogans when I was running. Legalize cannabis like onions. That was one of my slogans. He remembers. Yeah. Thank you, David. You remember. It's 3 years ago. He still remembers it. Yes, I love that. Very good. Very good. Mr. Max says heroin, weed, coke, etc. As long as it's black market, you will see violence to enforce business operations. That's always my point, right? My point is always I want to get out of the black market as soon as possible, and I deal with whatever else later. I just want to get it out of the black market.
Sure.
And the reason why I say it is the black market, and I'll tell you why. I grew up in a poor neighborhood. I grew up in the South Bronx. I grew up in a poor neighborhood, and the black market hurt a lot of people that I know. But almost always, whenever you have a black market and or prohibition, which they go together, the people who will be punished the most in almost every situation is poor women. Sure. They're the ones who are punished the most. Poor women are punished the most. Wealthy women have means, and they do what they need to do. And poor men, while they're punished, because in the black market, violence becomes king, since men tend to be more violent than women. There are some exceptions, obviously, but the vast majority, on a whole, men are far better at violence, better at group violence, and more violence.
Hey! Listen, we got leftists that might watch the program. All right, that's
why I'm broad brushing. I'm letting you know there are some women who would absolutely beat my derriere without question, whip my ass. Some would. But as overall, if you got 10 men and 10 women, the 10 men are going to be more violent. So they tend to move forward.
Okay,
and I want to punish poor women.
So my suggestion is not so much let's keep the black market. My suggestion is let's make a highly regulated monopoly that produces quality product that is used for socially useful purposes. So I know that's very statist of me, but I think it's an elegant solution.
It's an elegant solution. I like that. Yes. So you're kind of okay with the corporatocracy thing. You're kind of okay with that a little bit.
Depends. So basically I wouldn't mind seeing, so yes, I'm okay with progressive taxes. And what I would say is we need to basically the way that I see it right now is we have corporate capture. Basically what ends up happening is the government is used as a tool in order to beat small businesses to a pulp, make sure that they can't compete on the market. And that's kind of one of our major problems. What I would like to see is government used in the inverse, basically promoting the fact that like if your company is under a certain size, you literally have less of a tax burden. If you provide certain benefits to your employees, that's less of a tax burden. If you pay your employees a living wage, that's less of a tax burden. That way we don't have these like super corporations like, Walmart basically dominating the market because of economies of scale and all that kind of stuff. And we can actually create a true competition. I don't think that Amazon or Walmart or anything like that are going anywhere anytime soon. But at the same time, I think we could make it more competitive for somebody in America to say, I have an idea. How do I implement that idea into reality? And then basically make that process as easy as possible.
Well, there we go. Tom's like what you're saying. He says, nice actual conversation. Look at us go. Connor, we're winning. We're winning right now. We are so winning. I love it. I love that. Good. So he then teases you and says, if he says Biden, I'm out. He didn't want you voting for Biden.
Okay.
So I guess that's good.
I'll plead the fifth then.
There we go. Perfect. There we go. So, all right. So let me see if I can keep going here. Carrie says, "Oh, I didn't know that you won Joe Rogan. You didn't know? Come on, Carrie. Of course, yes. I was. Yes.
Hey, I'm not gonna lie that I am honored that you picked me to come onto your show. But now that I know that I'm one step away from Joe Rogan, I feel like I'm climbing in the world. So
you are up, coming up the ladder, man. Yes, you're now in my orbit.
Yeah, there we go. Hey, yes. There we go.
See
hey,
that?
I'll debate Gary Johnson. See if he'll take my call.
There we go. Joe says, how do we talk to military folks about ending the endless wars? Where do you stand on? I mean, look, you actually served some time in Iraq, didn't you?
I did.
So how do you feel about the quote endless wars? Do you think we should end them or no? Where's your head here?
We can do it for 80% cheaper. We can do the same thing for 80% cheaper. So basically, the way that I view American military power and American hegemony is that there's this concept I always repeat it. It's called Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's a psychological concept that basically says, people, for the folks at home, I know why people do what they do when they do it. And what it says is you fulfill your physiological needs first. You fulfill your security needs second, social needs, ego needs, self-actualization. I view that not just as individually true. I view that as socially true. I don't think you can fulfill social functions or economic functions or aspirational functions if you don't have security or basic human needs like shelter and food. I think that people will drive down to their basic needs. And as a result, society will be incredibly toxic if those fundamental needs aren't met. To bring this back into American military power, I view American military power as the global security force for international trade. I think that's what we do. When you talk about international policing, when you talk about Vietnam, when you talk about the Cold War, when you talk about intervention in the Middle East and North Africa, we are the international security force for global commerce. That is a necessary role. I don't know if we should be taking it on single-handedly, but it's a necessary role. Oftentimes, these conflicts, especially in the modern context, are not against state actors. They're not against full-scale state actors. They are against basically pirates, militias, terrorist cells, all that kind of stuff. And for every American soldier killed, we probably spend a few $100,000, and they probably spend 50 cents. We are being outspent. We are outspending our enemies by factors of thousands. Okay. So there's a concept that I bumped into while I was in the military called foreign internal defense. It's something that the Marine Corps does. It's something that the Green Berets of the Army do. And what they do is they go into countries and they say, hey, where's your best guys? We're going to train them to be awesome. And we're going to train them how to be competent. And then once we get them up to a competent stage, they're going to be the primary people in operations. And we're going to be in the background. We're going to do support, and we're going to do air support.
You sound like Dylan Burns.
Yeah, probably. But the point is, instead of having a footprint,
I want to ask you the same question I asked him. When does that work?
Always and everywhere.
So it worked in Iraq. It worked in Afghanistan. It worked in Syria. It worked in Vietnam.
Well, we didn't follow my game plan.
Oh, we just didn't do socialism right. I'm sorry. I mean, we didn't do that right yet. I'm sorry.
Well, hold on. Okay, so I gotta pick that apart. Is socialism when the government does stuff?
I was totally teasing you.
Okay, all right.
Socialists always tell me we haven't done socialist right. I hear that all the time.
Okay, so we haven't done the military right.
So we haven't done nation building right yet.
Okay, so to parse apart that concept, there's actually very promising concepts. So for instance, for the global war on terror, there was something that was busted out called the Small Wars Manual. It's the counterinsurgency manual used in the Philippines during the 1920s. And basically, that's how you have to think. And bringing it back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you need to fulfill basic human needs. You need to fulfill security. If people feel secure, they'll fulfill their social obligations. When social obligations are fulfilled, they'll fulfill their egotistical aspirations, which basically involves business. So what I would say is it is not our job to spend billions of dollars a year in Afghanistan, in Iraq, but it is our job to provide technical consultation for fees. We will help you nation build, but we want to cut. That's it. So it's as simple as that. It's a business transaction. We'll be the best mercenaries on the planet.
But okay. But then why would I want Americans, the government, doing that? Why wouldn't I want
we're the best?
But where so's Blackwater, why don't they just do it?
Well, I don't care if Blackwater does it.
That would be better. Like I would be okay with that, right? If Blackwater wants to be a consultant to Iraq or Afghanistan or whatever, and they want to send their guys and gals over there to do the internal security thing, which I don't remember ever working, but whatever, that thing that is supposed to work.
Foreign internal defense.
Foreign internal failure. I mean, defense, that thing, right? They're going to go do that. That's wonderful. Why are taxpayer dollars and guys and gals who believe that they are defending their nation, which you and I both know we're not, but believe we're defending our nation, and instead defending some other nation?
Because we have geopolitical and material interests in these countries. So, right
you
now,
and I do?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
You and I
didn't realize I had that. Okay.
You do.
I love it.
Because you and I are both talking on webcams and computers made out of plastic and rare earth minerals that are harvested all over the world. These are harvested through basically diplomatic relations that we enforce through force.
Hold on 1 second though. When the Taliban were controlling Afghanistan and being Taliban, I still had a computer.
Did you?
I did. It
Was
didn't
a
change
nice one?
When Saddam Hussein was in charge of Iraq.
Okay,
I still had a computer.
That's a bit.
I'm just saying. I still had a computer.
Okay, so let's push back. Let's pull apart both of these concepts. Okay. Number one, Afghanistan. Afghanistan has rare earth minerals, but it's a pain in the ass to get them out of there, basically because it's almost impossible to develop. Plenty of people have tried. They've all failed. The reason why we invaded Afghanistan was not for material motivation. It was because it was the haven for the people who blew up the towers on 9/11. Okay?
Yep.
The reason why people blew up the towers on 9/11 is because we're constantly sticking our toes in the Middle East and North Africa. But the reason why we're sticking it, and in Iraq specifically, the reason why we're sticking our toes in the Middle East and North Africa is because Iran and Iraq went to war with each other. They went to war with each other. But if Iraq fell, then Iran would be on the doorstep of Saudi Arabia. We lost Saudi Arabia as a petroleum trading partner, and we couldn't afford to lose Saudi Arabia as a petroleum trading partner. So we used Iraq as a proxy, sold them the precursors to weapons of mass destruction. They used them in order to kill people. 9/11 happened. We said, hey, it was kind of messed up that we sold them the precursors for weapons of mass destruction. Let's go clean up that mess. And then we made an even bigger mess. But what I would say is—
I had a computer the whole time, is all I'm saying.
Your computer back then was likely produced with petroleum that was harvested in the Middle East and North Africa. Virtually guaranteed.
But But my point is, I had a computer the whole time. Like, I've had a computer.
You don't think that we've had geopolitical interests in the Middle East and North Africa for the past 100 years?
Correct. Yes.
How so? How do you look at the historical record and say that we haven't had a geopolitical interest in the Middle East and North Africa for 100 years?
You know what? I guess maybe I should be clearer in what I'm saying. We didn't need to have. Maybe that's a better way. Did we have one? Yes. Of course.
Do you remember when this was probably even before your time? Do you remember when OPEC shut down trading with the United States over politics?
It was in the 70s. I was around. I remember.
Okay. And gas prices like quintupled, and there were gas shortages, and Americans lined up around the block for weeks on end.
And then we went out of our way to find other ways to get gas and petroleum and fracking.
You don't think that was from strong-arming the Middle East and North Africa back into the fold and telling them they could never do that shit again?
And so instead, now we have literally billions of trillions of dollars of dollars we thrown over there, plus at least 7,000 dead Americans, meaning veterans, which no one seems to give a shit about. We were about 9/11, right? But we lost as many Marines and soldiers in Afghanistan as we lost people in 9/11. And that doesn't include the 20-some-odd thousand wounded, plus all those coming back with PTSD and TBI. Brother, you know what I'm talking about, right?
I do know that's happening. I do know what you're talking about.
I'm fine. Let's find gas someplace else. The world's not going to end. And here's the next part. OPEC can talk all the trash they want. Eventually, they got to sell their gas. And America, and then was a massive market. And eventually, they would have said, okay, you can have the gas. That would have happened.
So what happens when China completely boxes us out of the market because they say, fuck America. They used to be the empire. They used to be in control, but you don't have to worry about them anymore. We'll protect you with our nukes and our military. You don't have to sell to them anymore. Let them collapse overnight. What do you say
They're
then?
doing it already, and they're doing it the smart way. They're not bombing anybody. They're doing what we should be doing. They're happy we're fighting in Afghanistan. They're happy we're fighting in Syria. The Russians keep putting money into Syria to keep us there, and the Chinese are arming the Afghans. Why do you think? Seriously, why do you think that when we told the Afghans we're going to leave in September, why are they still fighting us? Why are the Taliban attacking us? If they was in theory to just sit back and go, oh, great, we'll just wait till they leave, and then we'll take over the country. They're fighting because the Chinese are asking them to fight, hoping that we change our mind, hoping that we go back in and leave more people in there. The Chinese want us fighting Afghanistan so they can keep building their bridge around the world or whatever they're doing. They're doing the thing that we should be doing.
You might have better geopolitical back channels than I do, but at the same time, I'm pretty sure what the Taliban are actually doing is expanding their sphere of influence, preparing for central government collapse.
Yes.
Yeah,
of course.
And the central government. But here's my thing. We spent $48 billion a year in Afghanistan. Blackwater could have done it for 10.
Agreed.
So,
100%.
And could have achieved the same goals. Or
Agreed.
we could have done it for 10 and achieved the same goals. So while we probably don't agree on
none of that and just allowed Blackwater to do whatever it thought was best.
Hold up. So done none of that. Let's be very clear here. Done none of that. So
yes.
9/11 happens. We already have all our geopolitical interests in the 2000s and 90s. We can't undo time. Okay.
Yep.
9/12/2001.
Yep.
What do you think our response should have been?
I'll tell you exactly what we should have done. I'm going to give you exactly what we should have done. Number one, we take all of our special forces, which you know are the best currently in the world. Let's hope they stay that way. But they are currently the best in the world. We take every single special forces person that we have on the planet, and we say, here is your goal, CIA. Get bin Laden.
Yep.
Whatever it takes, send them. I want every SEAL team. I want every Marine. Go in, get them. No invasions. No threats. Go in. Well, what if they're in Pakistan? Then we're going into Pakistan. What if he's in Iraq? What if he's in Moscow? Then I guess we're going to paratroop into goddamn Moscow because we're going to get him no matter what. Number one. And most intelligence experts, if you ask them and tell them this, believe we would have got bin Laden in about 2 years. We would have got him. We probably would have got him in 2 years. No invasion. Second thing, we completely and utterly withdraw all of our forces from the Middle East. Every single unit. Every
you had
single
me in the
one
first half, not gonna lie.
Comes out
Second
of the
half
hold
is
on.
a little bit rough.
If you do both of those two things,
yeah,
here's what happens. There's no Americans in the Middle East, and bin Laden's dead. So we got bin Laden, and we've taught the Middle East one important thing. If you are a rogue actor and you attack us, you're dead. We don't care about what country you're in. We don't care about who you pray to. If you are a rogue actor and you attack us, you are going to end up taking a bullet from either a sailor or a Marine. A Marine is going to put a bullet in your head.
Then this is the important question that I think we're probably not going to agree on, but I think it's important because it's fundamental to the argument.
Yeah.
Do you think that we could achieve the same amount of international trade and geopolitical interest and power as we have right now purely through voluntary interactions with other world governments?
No, I think our military has to change completely. No, we should never be invading a country, ever. I think we have to turn our military into several things. Number one, as I said, more and more special forces. That's the future. Surgical strikes are the future. Nothing but surgical, tons of them, all the 3,000 tanks we have sitting in Arizona, I don't know, make them a reef on the bottom of the ocean. We don't need them. Get rid of them. We're not having any massive tank fights in the world anymore. It's not a thing. That's number one. Second, we have to maintain our nuclear arsenal. That cannot go away. That has to be maintained. Maybe trimmed down, perhaps. I'm not sure, but I would be okay if you want to trim it down, but I have to keep that. Third, massive cyber forces, which we are completely outgunned right now. We are totally outgunned in cyber. If we had massive cyber forces, the Russians want to invade Ukraine. Don't do that. Well, what if we're gonna? How about I give you 6 Chernobyls overnight? How about that? You want 6 Chernobyls? Stop. Just stop.
But they have the same capacity.
Yes, but if they do it to us, that's the whole point. Just like with nukes. We could nuke each other. So everything stopped. It's called mutual assured destruction. It actually worked. See, the thing I'm talking about has a history of actually working. The thing you're talking about is the book that's failed every single time. Mine actually works.
Wait. So counterinsurgency warfare has failed every single time?
Well, okay, I'm exaggerating.
I know. Is that why the Native Americans are still giving us crap right now? Is because
it's failed most of the time.
Okay, all right, just checking it.
In modern history, it's failed most of the time. That's what I'll say. Not 100%. All right.
Well, but most of the time. But of course, they didn't have me in charge. So that's
also. Well, I told Dylan the same thing. When Dylan gave me a similar answer, I said, if Dylan, if you were in charge, if I believed you or people like you were in charge, I'd be far more open to this. But I've seen and met the people who are in charge. I don't trust them at all. I don't think they'll follow your book. I don't think they'll follow your book at all. I think they'll take it and they will do whatever they can to make things worse. I think they'll make things horrible. Yep. And I know what people will say, but Larry, if we leave the Middle East, there'll be chaos. There's chaos now. We make things worse, not better. For me, it's frying pan and fire. You're saying we're already in the frying pan. It's hot. And I'm saying don't jump. I'm saying don't jump in the fire, Larry. The fire is worse. And you're saying the frying pan's hot, though. But there's no fire. How does it get worse? Please help me. If we pulled out of the Middle East, how does it get worse?
Okay.
Help me on this one.
So yeah. Okay. So Iraq becomes a proxy state of Iran because it's majority Shia. The western part of Iraq, basically the western part of Iraq and the eastern part of Syria become a neo-caliphate run by rednecks with machine guns. They start chopping people's heads off. Then
already happening in Saudi Arabia, so it's fine.
Well, but I think there's
have a caliphate.
I think there's a difference in scale.
Then Saudi's way bigger.
Okay, yeah. Well, but do you think they chop as many heads off as ISIS does?
Percentage-wise, I don't know, but numbers probably
not. Per capita, probably
numbers.
Not.
Per capita, probably not.
All right. Yeah. Gross head choppings, they might be doing okay. All right. So Iran and Saudi Arabia, which no offense to anybody in Iran or Saudi Arabia or whatever, both have ethnic and religious reasons to fucking hate each other's guts.
Yep.
One of whom is an aspiring nuclear power and promises to basically wipe Israel off of the map. We're talking about Israel being in physical jeopardy, Saudi Arabia being in physical jeopardy, Iran being in physical jeopardy, and potentially a three-way nuclear war. So, yes, I think things can get a lot worse.
You've just made that up. Absolutely not.
Why not? If Iran is going for nukes and they're threatening to destroy Israel, then why wouldn't they follow through on their process? Is it all bullshit? Why
did the Soviet Union nuke us?
Mutually assured destruction.
Thank you. Israel already has nukes.
Okay,
so why would Iran nuke Israel?
You're talking about sane, rational people. Do you think the hijackers
and the Soviets were sane and rational?
I have a point, and I think you're going to appreciate it.
I'll be quiet.
So, basically, do you think the hijackers on 9/11 were deterred by mutually assured destruction? Do you think they were deterred by mortality?
They were Saudis.
Do you think Iran doesn't have suicide soldiers?
So do we.
Suicide soldiers. We have people who strap bombs to themselves and walk into markets and blow people up?
You were a Marine just like I was. Are you telling me that if you believed that America was seriously in jeopardy, if you believed the future of America was in jeopardy, and you were told by your colonel that you're going on a mission, and the odds are none of you coming back, so don't bother wasting your time. You're not coming back.
Okay.
You're going on a mission, and if you're lucky, one of you's coming back, odds are none of you coming back. You're telling me if some colonel came in asking for volunteers, that the Marines wouldn't have volunteered for that duty?
Of course, it's all psychologically similar.
Thank you. Of course we would have.
Of
course we would have.
But because we're a developed secular nuclear power, we would view nuking a city of civilians as a moral wrong. You seem to have done a utilitarian calculus where you're comfortable, nuking people in order to prevent worse harm. That's cool, I guess. But at the same time,
I said no one will get nuked. I didn't say that.
I mean, I don't know. You said that if Moscow invades Ukraine, that you would nuke 3 Russian cities.
No, I did not say that. I said give you Chernobyls, meaning that I would use a cyber attack to shut all your stuff down.
But Chernobyl became radioactive.
It did, but I would shut all your stuff down, and you did escape. They'd run away. It's fine. It's not a nuke. I'm not going to drop bombs on them.
Okay.
I'm going to cyber attack them. And they're not going to want to cyber attack me back because, again, it's mutual assured destruction in the cyber attack.
Okay. Well, you have greater faith in humanity than I do. My very sincerely held belief, backed up by active suicide bombings and the global war on terror for 20 years, is that states like Iran and Saudi Arabia would basically use proxy militias and use shit like fucking dirty bombs to turn the entire Middle East and North Africa like unusable for human habitation. Because we're in there fucking holding them apart. That's why.
So
because we're saying, Saudi Arabia, don't do that shit. We need your oil. Please, for the love of God, don't attack Iran. Iran, we see what you're doing, and we're going to drone strike some of your militias because you keep setting up rockets to fucking hit Israel. Hey, Israel, we know that you're really worried about a nuclear Iran, so let's negotiate a deal in order for Iran to not have nuclear weapons. We're doing this shit all the time because it's important for global stability. Unless you want Jerusalem to be radioactive, this is incredibly important work.
No.
Yes, it is. With religious zealots, yes, it is.
We have zealots in our country too.
Yeah, how many skyscrapers have they blown up, Larry?
No, but they've killed. But because of their voting of the people in, they've killed far more than they've killed of us. We've killed far more of them than they've killed of us. Not even close. Maybe 100 to 1.
We would need to get into the moral nitty gritty for this about all that.
Maybe 100 to 1.
But okay. So what?
But let's say you're correct. Let's say you're right, and I'm totally wrong. Let's say you're right, and I'm totally wrong. And the Saudis and the Iranians want to fight each other and bomb each other and use dirty bombs. Let's say I'm totally wrong, and they want to do that. The Israelis have the largest economy, the most effective military, and nuclear weapons right now. At this moment in time, Israel, this is not the 60s or the 40s, which it was different then. At this point, they have no realistic chance of being wiped off the face of the earth. At this moment in time, right now. No realistic chance at all. Larry, that's number one. Now, but hold on. Say I'm wrong. I'm saying today, at this moment. Say I'm wrong, though. And the Iranians, all 80 million of them, they're crazy, and they're going to go nuke Israel for whatever reason. They decide that. And the Saudis are nuts, and they're going to go nuke Iran or whatever.
Or even just normal suicide bombings.
So what you're, whatever, they're going to do this horrible war, and millions are going to die. 10 million die, whatever the number is, millions die. Over 2 million died in the Iraq-Iran war, right? So say 10 million die in this horrible war. Okay, how is that our responsibility to stop that? How is it ours? And why, instead of those millions dying today, or in that, say, 2-year war, how long it lasts, why is it better that instead we had those same 10 million die, but now it's been over 70 years, not over 2. And on top of that, we've had how many Americans, hundreds of thousands, wounded and killed in the middle of that. And we still don't have stability, and we still have a broken Middle East. I don't understand how your way is any better than mine.
Okay.
The only difference between yours and mine is if mine happens, and again, mine's an if. Based on history, it hasn't happened. But say I'm wrong. So there'll be massive death at a short period of time, and then, as always, wars end, except when we don't stop them. But the war will end at one point. Either Iran will win, or Saudi Arabia will win, or Israel will win, or whatever. Somebody will win, and it will then stabilize. That is what has happened in almost every single war ever, except for the ones that we never end. In every other war, at one point it ends, somebody wins, and stability then happens for a while. Except when we intervene.
Just us, or is this how power works in general?
Recently. This is recent history. Except when we intervene, that's when the wars don't end.
Okay, so I want to...
Recent history.
I want to give you a few counterpoints.
Please.
So,
I love it.
All right. So one of the things that you said or implied, so if I misread this, it's totally fine. But if we withdrew, Israel, because it has a pretty strong army, nuclear weapons, and a giga economy.
Yep.
They would ultimately either be able to defend themselves, or they become a power broker in the region. There is a historical, ethnic, and religious reason why this isn't going to happen. So like basically, literally, just read the Quran.
That's not what I said.
Okay, well, this is what I'm saying.
What I said is they would not be destroyed or removed from. They won't be destroyed. That's what I said.
Okay, lots of people will still die. So what I would say is the reason why lots of people would still die is because there's a religious hierarchy in the Quran, and basically it's people who are not of the faith of the people of the book. Then there's the people of the book. So, Jews, Christians, Muslims, all that kind of stuff. But even within that, there's a hierarchy, and there's Muslims, Jews, and Christians. So what I would say is it is very rarely going to be possible for religious zealots from Iran to accept Jews being a power broker in the Middle East and North Africa. Like very rarely. We would need a complete cultural revolution. Now, maybe that cultural revolution would occur within a war that killed 10 million people within a decade or something like that, that we somehow stayed out of, despite oil and petroleum being an incredibly important resource in this war involving two of the largest proven petroleum reserves on the planet. Maybe somehow we stay out of that war. We're not going to stay out of that war. Then you asked me a very important question.
We do.
What? Okay. So what? Well, okay. I have another counterpoint. So basically, my issue with that is you asked a question. What's the difference between 10 million dead in a decade versus 10 million decade over 70 years? Because the pain is distributed over time, because cultural revolution is a slow process, because these processes are slow. And as a result, instead of 10 million instantaneous deaths, in deaths that you and I can barely imagine, you basically save those lives, save those genetic lineages, save those soldiers. And yes, some soldiers die over a longer period of time. But guess what? You asked me about the hundreds of thousands of American veterans who currently have fucked up problems, including me, who has a fucked up. Sorry for swearing. But including me, including me, who has a bad back and bad neck. Okay, we're volunteers. Okay, we're volunteers. We showed up. We, at some level, now we were 17 and 18, so maybe we didn't know everything that we were supposed to know. But on some level, we were volunteers. We were consenting adults. We said that we were going to sign up for messed up stuff. And as a result, we were going to get college experience, training. Maybe some of us were into violence secretly, all that kind of stuff. So basically, that's some of the moral differences. And then finally, basically what I would say is this whole moral argument is incredibly interesting to me, because it's basically pre-World War II mentality. Like it is like unvarnished isolationism. And the reason...
Non-interventionalism.
Tell me.
Non-interventionalism.
Tell me the difference then, please.
Isolation says we don't get involved with anyone. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying we don't invade any countries.
Okay.
We don't get involved in people's... We don't get involved. We don't invade other countries. We don't get involved in people's civil wars. Okay,
civil wars. What if it's a major war between two countries with the two largest proven petroleum reserves on the planet?
I would try to negotiate that away if I could. If I can't, then they're gonna fight.
Well, and what if they say, and then what happens when, because this has already happened, by the way, what happens when militias using low-tech drones attack oil fields and interrupt the entire world supply? How long do you expect to be president if literally people can't drive their cars down the road, if heavy equipment machinery can't operate, if the entire planet can't function the way that it functions on a day-to-day basis? You're also talking about tens of millions of people being killed in the conflict. Not only are you talking about tens of millions of people being killed, if there's power blackouts inside the United States, Americans are going to be killed because we're not going to be able to run life support
We have
machines.
It now. We just have
What
it
are you
Texas,
talking
California.
about?
We have it now.
We have power blackouts that are killing Americans because they don't have backup generators?
Yes.
Wait, I'm sorry. Say where?
In Texas, remember?
Do you think a power outage...
You just said hold
on. We have to talk about scale here. Are you saying a power outage caused by a freak winter storm that's probably caused by, climate change is comparable? You could say morally comparable or verbally comparable, but do you think it's comparable in scale to the global oil supply being destroyed for the entire planet? Do you think the power outages are comparable?
If you honestly believe, and maybe you do, I mean, what I feel from you, and this is only emotion, I could be totally off. But what I feel from you is you think that the people in the Middle East, because of their religious zealotry or because of their cultural background or whatever is the reason,
Yep.
that they are open to and happy to and will completely devastate themselves because of the Quran or their cultural background. First of all, I don't believe that. I don't. You do, I don't. Second, if I was such a bad president and the rest of the world was so bad at what it did, are you telling me that there's no way that we, as the world who relies on this petroleum, that when we saw it coming, we would just go, I guess whatevs, and not do it? And if we could, again, maybe you're right, and we're completely incompetent, and we screw it totally up, and we lose it, we're still going to see it coming. If we can't respond to this, and maybe we should respond to it. We've been through world wars before. We've been through this in the past, and somehow we survived. If we're that dependent on petroleum, that if two countries fight, that we're having blackouts and people are dying, if we're that dependent upon it, holy shit, let's fix it now and let them have the fight so we can fix it. I don't want to be in that position at all.
Okay, so here's something we agree on.
I'm still yes. Even with all that, I'm still yes.
Okay, being solution oriented. Okay, because I'm sure any lefties that are basically following this entire conversation, they would say that we have an impending calamity, an impending environmental calamity that is similar in threat to a global war, and it's going to kill hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of people within the next century. Okay, we are not responding to that right now, and we allegedly see it coming. And here's where we agree. If you're saying that we need to change the way energy is done on the planet, I completely agree. There are so many things that we could do. Nuclear, quick turn, natural gas turbines, renewables where appropriate. You could redo the entire energy grid, and then you could
hold on 1 second real fast. They're on your look. He's already here. Ray's like nuclear, hydro, coal. Ryan's like Gen 4 nuclear means they're all the chat's totally with you. Cool. Keep going. I'm sorry. Totally with you.
No. It's totally fine. This is where for me, what I'm trying to do, because I can jump across different like political divides without being a jerk. Yes, Shelley Schultz, as long as the carbon emissions aren't as bad, or if we figure out carbon capture as a technology.
There we go.
Yep. So basically what I would say is there are, if you were to like look at the American population as a whole, and then you were supposed to say, what do we have support for with this policy, this policy, this policy, this policy, this policy? The coalitions and the factions would change. But the ability to get to almost 60%, 70% approval for different policies would be possible. But what's happened is because we've split the country into roughly 4 factions, we just spend all of our time calling the other side on the political binary evil, instead of talking about like, hey, I agree with anarcho-communists and libertarians and anarchists in general on this topic. Self-reliance, being able to grow food in your own backyard, marksmanship, basically self-defense training, self-reliance, communitarianism, all that kind of stuff. We agree on all that kind of stuff. So let's build a very temporary alliance on this one policy or community matter, come together and create like a little bit of a better world on this subject. Well, on this next subject, we hate each other, so we can't negotiate on that one. But you can flip between the subjects in order to build that kind of consistency. And you were asking me what I was trying to do in this political space when I first started. Basically, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to be a bridge. I'm trying to be a bridge between these different communities, because right now it seems like, at least on the internet sphere, they're all like 1 or 2 serious incidents away from actually killing each other. And I don't think that's
you're right. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm with you completely. Yes. Yeah. I'm totally with you. I think that's the bigger issue. 100%. It's why I spend so much time trying to talk to the left, to understand their arguments, to understand where they are, right? All those things. I completely agree. And when I push back, I hope that people see that I'm pushing back in a way that is good faith. I hope they're seeing that, and that I actually want to have a good solution. I hope they're seeing that. And sometimes people don't. So,
listen, we just yelled at each other a little bit. I don't feel like you hate me individually as a person, so that's good.
Well, a little bit. I'm kidding.
It's the status cop part of me, isn't it?
Yes. No. Carrie says, I'm here too precisely because I don't want to live in an echo chamber. Yes. Absolutely, yes.
It's important.
So the chat likes you. You win in my chat. So
I even when I'm hated, I tend to be relatively charming.
There we go. So go check him out. Head over to twitter.com. Check out Counterpoints so you can see what he's doing. He also has a YouTube page too. So check that out too.
Yeah.
If you want to.
Do you mind if I just kind of shout out some of the things I do? That way people understand
go ahead,
me?
please.
And then are we wrapping up?
Sure. Yes, fine. Or let me ask you more questions, because if I don't ask you more questions, they'll hang up right now, and I want them to stay on while you pitch your stuff. Sure. So I'm going to keep doing more stuff after, so you guys have to listen. Go ahead, pitch your stuff.
Okay. Yeah. And then what I would say too is, if you want to do this again, if you want to pick a different subject, I'm very happy to do so. I had an excellent time. So my name is Connor. I run a YouTube channel named Counterpoints. Basically, I do political panel shows. I fight on a website called twitch.tv. That's where all the characters that we were talking about earlier are on. But I'm also a massive science fiction nerd and philosophy and religious nerd with a very foul mouth. So if you can get over individual profanity, then if you like good science fiction, Warhammer 40,000 is one of the best universes ever created. I create content related to that. Halo, and then also Full Metal Jacket, which is a Vietnam War movie. I break it down from a technical, tactical, philosophical, religious perspective. Same thing with the excellent law enforcement movie End of Watch. Same thing with Bo Burnham, which is a comedy special that came out that's very popular right now. So if you're interested in like philosophy, religion, military violence, science fiction, or people arguing with each other on the internet, then I probably have something for you, and I would invite you to come check it out. And the easiest way to do that is to go onto Twitter, type in Counterpoints, CONORPOINTS, CONORPOINTS, and then you can basically find my YouTube link right there. So
both of the links are in my show descriptions. So in the description of the show, click on either one of them. You can grab all of his goodies if you like. So yes, Shelly says, I appreciate the fact that you can debate and discuss rather than debase and disgust. Ooh, look at that.
I try.
We are winning, man. We are so winning. It's good. I love it. But so let me, is there something that when you talk to the left that you almost always agree with them on? Is there such a thing where, like, you know that almost always you're going to, in this one thing, you're going to be an ally?
Yeah, it's actually a libertarian thing. Is the thing that I end up agreeing on the left with, which is basically like, if you're a trans individual, you're not hurting anybody, all that kind of stuff, your rights as an individual should be respected, and you should be able to live your life in the way that makes you happiest. Same thing with gay folks, racial minorities, all that kind of stuff. If you're living the best life that you can possible while not hurting anybody else, I want your individual rights and responsibilities to be respected. Now, what's weird about that is that's a libertarian philosophy. That's kind of, we
are the healers, Connor. Right? We are the healers.
Yeah. So basically, what I end up agreeing with the left on is actually like it's rooted in libertarian philosophy. But that's normally a good starting point. And then I have been sold on universal healthcare. Maybe we can argue about that next time.
Here we go. No. I like the idea that you can agree. Usually I agree with the left on ending the war on drugs. Right. And the second thing is I also agree with them usually on the outcomes. Like I want a fairer tax. I want corporations to pay more. I just want to come up with the appropriate tax schemes that they actually pay versus just get around that. Right. So in those cases, I tend to agree. And also I want them to be voluntary. I'm very much about voluntarism. That's a big deal. I'm a libertarian, obviously. So it's a big deal for me. But setting up a system that allows people to voluntarily do what I would like them to do. That's what I want to do, right? I always want to have that kind of system whenever I can. So there's one thing I want to bring up here, and this is a big issue with people here, and that is pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
Yeah, pineapple on pizza, master race, absolutely. Sorry.
Whoa, Joe, why did you do that? No. Nothing gets me triggered.
Hold on.
I'm a New Yorker. This is a no-no. And here, look, let me be very clear.
Yeah, but everything's cold up there. So would you want cold pineapple on pizza? Gross.
All right, this is it. Here's where I am. Okay, to be very clear. I am about do whatever you want. I'm about end the war on drugs. I'm about, we'd have a better prison system, except people who put pineapple on pizza. They are to be arrested immediately. They lose all of their rights. They should not be able to vote. They should get no rights whatsoever. They should be put in jail. That's it, no matter what. And if they refuse to repent for being the evil people they are, summary execution in the street. I'm okay.
Okay, no worries. You can come and find me when I'm done saying this sentence. So So there's a pizzeria that started in Georgia. It's called Mellow Mushroom Pizzeria. If you're ever in the South, you need to visit it. There's something called a Maui Wowie. Okay. I used to work at this restaurant. It's a very thick crust pizza, pesto as a base, mozzarella on top of that, banana peppers. I think it might be jerk chicken. So it's got a little bit of spice, banana peppers, jerk chicken, and pineapple on top of that. And then you can basically dip the crust in a marinara or a beer cheese sauce that they have. So if you're in the South, if you're in Georgia, if you're in Florida, if you're in, I think they're in the Carolinas now too, go to Mellow Mushroom Pizzeria, try the Maui Wowie. If you still hate pineapples after that, it's totally fine.
Okay, so I guess I'll go in with the FBI later and arrest them all at the end.
Yeah, that's fine.
So yes.
Listen, I knew I was going to get canceled eventually. Yes. I didn't know it was going to be for this.
It was for that. Gitmo. Paula says Gitmo for pineapple on pizza.
Sorry.
Shelly says, when we just started to like you go pineapple on us. There we go.
But if it makes you feel better, my wife hates me too. So, like for specifically the pineapple on pizza take. So,
So next time I got to bring your wife on. That's what I'm saying.
And then, and then if you need her to betray me in a Judas-like Julius Caesar moment, then you could probably get her to do that for you. So, yeah.
That would be amazing. That would be amazing. Connor, I got to tell you, it's a great show. I'm so glad you came on. Anything you want to bring up before we wrap this up?
No. Just check out my channel. You can just go into YouTube and type in Counterpoints common spelling. You should find me. I'm about to break 8,000. And no, I really appreciate it. If you have any right-wing friends or libertarian friends who are in the media space at all, and they seem a little bit confused by the younger generation, Twitch.tv, internet politics, any of that kind of stuff. One, I don't mind being a translator on or off camera. Two, if they want to do a debate similar or a conversation similar to the way that we did. I kind of joked about this with you before the show. I have been so inundated with lefty brain rot for like 6 months that I feel like gravitationally I've been pulled off course. I think I need to deal with some right wingers in order to try to get back center. So if you have anybody,
there we go.
Please send them my way.
I like it. And guys, as always, please like, comment, and share. I know I bug you. Please do that. Follow all my stuff. And again, take the world's smallest political quiz. Do you want me to stay on? You do, right? Well, then support my sponsors. Take the quiz. Don't mess around. Take the quiz. The link's right there. They love it. And once you take it, share it. Share on Twitter. Share it on all of the interwebs things. All of them. Just share them. It matters. Take it. You're probably more libertarian than you think.
The world's smallest political quiz.
That's correct. Okay. Click the link when we're done. Take it and share it.
I'll be doing that and posted it on my Twitter.
There we go. That's what I want to see. 100%. I love that. And of course, patreon.com is the way to support me directly. Guys, thank you so much. I appreciate all the time you gave me. I'll be back on tomorrow. So I will see you tomorrow, regular time, 7 p.m. Everybody else, have